Yo, what's up everyone? It's a little Yaha. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make gummy bears from scratch, from the beginning, step by step. It's honestly really easy. I don't know why I've never done this before. All you're going to need is your wax. I'm going to be using shatter, but you can use any concentrate like crumble, sugar, diamonds, rosin, resin, anything you want you can use. You can even use weed, but the process is a little bit different, a little bit longer. I prefer using wax for edibles because they're more potent, easier to use, faster to make, and they just come out a lot more cleaner. All you're gonna need is 3 simple ingredients: your coconut oil, your jello, and your gelatin. Other than that, you don't really need all this other fancy stuff. It's just kind of there for clout. For example, you don't really need the mold, but it is helpful and or useful. Same thing goes for the sugar and the sunflower liquid. Lecithin. Nah, that shit's just getting worse. Alright, first thing I'm gonna do is get my 5 grams. They're paper plane. These are cheap and they're strong. They're smackers. I'm only gonna be using 3 grams, and I'm not gonna be like those other people that are like, oh, if you want to learn how I made my infused coconut oil, go check out my other video before you watch this, blah blah blah. Nah, I'm gonna show you guys how to make it in under a minute. Once you got your wax or concentrate ready, you're gonna be putting it inside the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes. You can put as much as you want, or you can even put less, but obviously if you put more, it's gonna take a little bit longer. If you put less, it should be a little shorter. After 30 minutes, I checked up on it and it was bubbling, and this is a good sign, and all it means is that the decarboxylation process is currently happening. Leave it in the oven and check up on it every 10 minutes until it finishes bubbling. Mine took a full hour, but you can see the difference. It looks nice and smooth now. I placed it in a double boiler, and all that means is I put it inside a pot of water. This is basically just gonna prevent the THC from burning. You can use any type of coconut oil. Unrefined is supposed to be better for your skin. Refined is supposed to be better for baking, and it has a higher smoke point. I'm gonna be using 1 cup of coconut oil and putting it inside my 3 grams of decarboxylated wax. Make sure your flame is on and your water is boiling. Mix everything together and leave it here for 2 hours. But occasionally, every 15 to 30 minutes, you do want to stir. I also added more water to the double boiler. During this time, you can also add your sunflower liquid lecithin, or you can add it later like I am, or not at all. You don't really need to add this. It is optional and not necessary. This is how your THC infused coconut oil should look at the end once you're finished. Next, I'm gonna be making the jello using half a cup of water, 1 6-ounce jello box, and you can pick any flavor you want. Mix everything together, and I'm also adding a whole box of gelatin, which comes with 4 envelopes. The 4 envelopes total 1 ounce. The chunks don't really matter, just as long as you know you tried and you gave it your best effort. But it should come out to look something similar to this, and you're gonna want to let it sit there for 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes it should look nice and chunky and kind of like a slushy. I measured out half a cup of THC infused coconut oil that we just made, and I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of sunflower liquid lecithin. And like I was saying earlier, this isn't necessary or mandatory. You don't really need it for the recipe, but it can be helpful. All it basically does is help with the emulsification process, meaning it's gonna make it a lot easier for the water, the coconut oil, and the THC to mix in together, therefore resulting in more stronger and more potent edibles. I'm gonna add the jello mix in, and make sure you're consistently stirring for about 30 minutes. You're gonna want to do this properly. You don't want any of this separating, because then that will result to edibles being more potent, some of them being less potent. Once you are confident in your mixing abilities and you feel that you are done, while the water is boiling, let it sit there for about 5 minutes, and at the top you should start to notice a foamy layer starting to build up, and you want to remove that completely. But you don't want to throw it away. Just because it looks different, it don't mean it don't work. Rather than throwing it away, put it in a small container or a little bowl. There's nothing wrong with it, and it still contains THC. It's just not gonna have that authentic, original, see-through, clear gummy bear look. If you leave it inside, all of the gummies will come out with a thin layer of foam at the top. If you make this mistake, you can easily remove it if you want, but it doesn't really have an impact to the taste. Everything else came out perfectly normal. It's got bounce to it. It's nice and squishy. It don't fall apart easy. After you removed all the foam and avoided that mistake, it should have a nice clear color like this. Make sure you are continuously mixing your mixture. You don't want any of those ingredients to separate. Take out your mold, and I'm gonna be using a dripper. Notice how I still have the liquid in the heat. This is so it won't cool down and harden. During this time, you can see that I was was so focused on making perfect gummies that I forgot to stir continuously, and you will see this mistake reflect later on. You also want to remove any air bubbles in your gummies by either popping them, or if you're using a dropper, you could just suction them back up. If you don't, you're gonna end up with something that looks like this. And of course, all of these mistakes were done on purpose for you guys, because it's not like I don't know what I'm doing, because I do. I'm a gummy bear expert. I actually went to college for it. You can actually make these gummies as perfect as you want. It all depends on you and how much work you want to put into it. If you take a look at it from the side angle, you can see how some of them are flat and others actually pop out. All you have to do is add one drop at a time and it'll inflate, but it has to be the perfect amount or else it'll spill over. I continued to make the rest of my gummies, and once I was finished, I placed them in the fridge for 24 hours, but realistically they were probably done after 2 or 3 hours. I just wasn't in no rush. And this is what I got. Since I was so focused on removing all the foam, I ended up making a mistake of not continuously stirring, so the gummies came out uneven. The first 2 molds were fine. It was mostly the last one that came out a little unbalanced. I made 3 batches. The first one is a red one that I left the foam inside. The second one is a green one that you'll find little oil spots, and that's because I didn't continuously stir. And honestly, if you're not picky, this isn't really a mistake. It's more of an addition. And if you get something that looks like this, you can eat the green gummy and the white part, but all it is coconut oil. So what I did is I just saved it for later for another recipe. And now it's time for the foamy part that I told you guys to save for later. This is honestly really good. It tastes like a flavored Tootsie Roll, and it's a smacker. I don't know what it was about this, but 2 hours after eating it, I knocked out. This hit me harder than like 1,000 milligram syrup I drank last time. If you're a perfectionist and you don't like how it came out and you hate yourself, don't trip. You can always go back and remelt all these in a double boiler again and repeat the process. Because that's exactly what I did. Kinda. Remove foam, stir. And on my 3rd try, I created perfection. I learned from all of my mistakes and made the perfect gummy. These blue ones were flawless. There was nothing wrong with them. They were clear, see-through. They honestly were even better than regular gummies. They look fresh, like straight out the oven type shit. Here is a comparison of all 3 batches, and you can see that the first one still has a foam at the top. The second one has little oil spots because I didn't properly mix it. And the 3rd one is perfect, flawless, see-through. You can see even my little wrinkles on the skin. You can see everything right through it. You can also add sugar to cover up any of your mistakes. I mean, to make them taste better. And honestly, the ones that have foam in it, they look even cleaner because they look like they got 2 colors. Not too shabby for a mistake. But I don't recommend you adding sugar unless you're gonna eat them right away, or else you're gonna get a big puddle of sugary water. It's gonna look something like this, and believe it or not, it took less than 10 minutes for this to happen. They look all nasty and melted. They didn't even give me time to hit that record button to get that thumbnail, so I don't recommend you doing this, especially if you want to store them long term. They all came out great, other than the fact that the first 2 attempts had slightly little minor mistakes, but they are most definitely edible. Honestly, if you don't put them upside down, they all look perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. They all almost look basically the same. They are all bouncy and firm and definitely not gonna fall apart even if you try. And just in case you want a rough estimate of what you're making and how much, for example, if you have 1 gram and the percentage is 80%, you would roughly have 800 milligrams of THC. And if you make 8 edibles and divide it by 800 milligrams, you would get a total of 100 milligrams per edible. And the reason I showed you guys all of my mistakes is because I could have just capped and been like, oh, look at these blue ones, they came out fire, they're perfect, I don't make mistakes, blah blah blah. But I wanted to show you guys to hopefully help you guys avoid these mistakes. But low-key, I am proud of these blue ones. You can see right through them. It says made in US in the back. You can see through the heart. I definitely recommend you guys trying this out. It's simple, fast, easy, and you can make it as weak or potent as you want. Alright everyone, so this is gonna be the end of this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't already so you can get notified every time I post. And as always, remember, be good people.